All right, real life Amber Heard trial. Does it remind you?
My dog stepped on a bee. That was called the black bee word.
Oh. All right, let's get started with this because, so basically, to kind of summarize my actions like Amber Heard, I went through quite a few hearings with no jury in which she was on the stand, and it drove me crazy because she was lying blatantly, and it was difficult to understand how this was allowed. So anyway, I'm going to read something of the transcript. Anyway, so this is my lawyer asking her. He says, getting back to the questions about the medications, when were they prescribed? Hold on a second. Am I on the wrong one? So, yeah, let me just get on this real quick. Getting back to the medications, when were they prescribed? I can't give you exact dates. That's my ex saying. I can't give you exact dates, but I believe it was in August for the antidepressants. And now, and my lawyer says, and now, I know that in your declaration, you mentioned at points that I think the quote was that you're going to kill yourself. Do you still feel suicidal? Then the mother of my child responds, I have never felt suicidal. I also stated is that was my way to end arguments with Charlie that would not end. And it's not healthy and I'm not proud of it. And I don't think it's quote unquote normal behavior. But our arguments would get so heated and so intense that I would lock myself in the bathroom and I would threaten to hurt myself if he didn't stop arguing. I never seriously attempted suicide. I'm not suicidal. I have no desire to commit suicide. And then my lawyer says, but at one point you actually held a knife to your wrist. Is that correct? Yes, I held it. And then she says, and then he starts saying, and that was during, and then she interrupts him and says, I never punctured myself. There's a couple things with that. One, which still I haven't had any fucking answers to from anyone, is how or why, even though I understand that she's saying it's not normal behavior, but everybody else is acting as if it's normal. In other words, the judge has seemed to judge that this is normal behavior, despite what the mother of my child is saying. So, how is that normal behavior? In other words, if I'm arguing with you, we're in a relationship together, and I'm arguing with you, I don't know about what, because this is the thing, it's all kind of made up. So I don't know what I would make up that I'm arguing about. I'm upset at her for whatever fucking reason, right? And I'm like, yo, I'm upset because you didn't do the dishes or whatever. And I'm yelling at her for hours. How does her attempting suicide or saying that she's going to kill herself end the argument? Like, I never really understood that because it never happened. And so I don't understand how anybody else's mind makes sense of that. Like, why would, like, if that was really happening, like, I really don't even understand what people think that I was thinking. Like, why would I just stop arguing because she said she was going to kill herself? If I'm already angry and I'm yelling at her and I obviously don't care, I'm doing this for hours, and I want to abuse her in a certain sense, why would I care that she's threatening to kill herself? That wouldn't end the argument. You know what I mean? Like, if anything, that would just let it go forward. Like, I would imagine myself, if I was actually upset at her, or anyone really, and they threatened to kill themselves, I'd be like, yeah, fuck it, go ahead. So I've never been able to make sense of that. And so, going back on, and so my lawyer asked her, and that was during one of these arguments with Charlie, is that correct? And she says, correct. And then my lawyer says, and your testimony is that you did that Charlie forced you to do that so you could de-escalate the argument. Is that correct? And then she says, I am not blaming anyone else for my behavior, but when our arguments were going on for hours of no end, I was desperate to stop them. I resorted to doing things like that and threatening to hurt myself so the argument would stop. Again, I just really don't understand the logic behind that. And now, is that a pattern that you would do? In other words, that you guys would have arguments and you would threaten to hurt yourself in hopes that you would de-escalate the situation. Is that accurate? And she says it happened quite frequently. It wasn't every argument by any means, but it happened frequently, yes. So, I mean, she's verifying what I'm saying, which is that she would often threaten to kill herself, and she was suicidal, except that she's saying that it was because I was arguing with her. And no one's ever been able to kind of explain to me how that makes sense to anybody. So, anyways, she says, and then my lawyer says, have you referred to your quote unquote defense network to protect yourself? And she starts saying, can you clarify what you're asking? And he says, yeah, what I'm hearing is that you at different points would threaten to hurt yourself in order to get Charlie to stop arguing with you. Is that correct? And she says, correct. And what I'm asking is that have you ever referred to that behavior that you said you're not proud of as your defense network to protect yourself? And anyway, but I don't think I have that one really quick to pull up. But what that's in reference to is a letter that she wrote months before we separated, and when she had referred to where one, she's talking about her dissociative identity disorder, and two, she's talking about she has she does shit like that to try to cover up her dissociative identity disorder and dealing with it. So anyway, this shit has got me on a fucking swivel. Just because this Amber Heard trial is fucking crazy and has made me relook at a lot of things, and even just looking at the transcripts of the first hearing, there's many hearings. It's not even just one, where it's difficult to understand how the judge or anybody else could let shit like this go. I mean, like, there's literally examples in here that are very similar to the Amber Heard trial where her lawyer is objecting to her own questions. It's all fucking weird. And I just wanted to get this out real quick to see, because this has got me fucking stressed. I got a headache. But I got to get this out there to kind of show people how fucked up of a situation this is and how weird it is that a judge in California would allow that type of testimony and take it credibly, which is the important part of this. You got to understand there's a child involved, and it's as if, again, take the Amber Heard trial. Let's say there was no jury involved and the court just literally took everything Amber Heard was saying as didn't see her as a liar at all, while the rest of the world does. I experienced that in a closed courtroom, and the only thing I have is this transcript. And previously, I didn't have anything to compare it to kind of show people how ridiculous it fucking is. And now that I do, it's actually a little bit, it feels overwhelming because it's, A, it's emotional for me, and then B, it's just fucking crazy because, to do these posts and not have any, kind of, reply back, and also understand I've gone to, professionals as well, like lawyers, therapists, like trying to just get answers to something as simple as like, how does that make sense, right? Like, if I'm an abusive person and I'm yelling at you for like 4 or 5 hours, how does threatening to kill yourself de-escalate the argument? You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't really make any sense. Like, I don't even understand how we go on from that. But again, like, I'm trying to kind of get myself in the mindset of an abuser. But like, let's say I'm abusing her, which means I'm keeping her around basically just to abuse her, right? Like, I don't really like her. I'm just abusing her. Or if I do like her, I'm like, fucked in the head. Like, I'm not getting it. So either way, my main thing is to keep her around to keep abusing her. So her threatening to kill herself, to me, I feel like would just be the ultimate win, right? Like, if you know what I mean? Like, why would I stop arguing? I guess at that point, like, I would imagine being like, no, fucking go ahead, go kill yourself. In other words, for me, very honestly, the argument would change into like, instead of whatever, like I would then focus on being like, no, you should kill yourself. Why don't you kill yourself? Go kill yourself. Like, it wouldn't de-escalate the situation. It would actually more likely escalate it. And this is, like I said, just one of so many fucking things that I'm trying to make sense of. Like, how could this judge or anybody else involved, just let it go? And considering, again, there's a child involved in this case as well. So it's not, this isn't just, two people breaking up and arguing about what happened. This is has much more serious consequences. Anyway, like I said, I just want to get this out real quick and figure out how to make this quicker and easier for others to understand.